Worst loss of the season. It's the worst damn loss of the season. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Brenden, I don't know where the hell to even start with.
I know
with this right now. We all just watched it. We have people in the chat that are already active with what we saw. And they're in here because the Cardinals lose 5-0. No, it's 6-0. I'm sorry, to the Rockies. You get shut out at Coors Field.
There's no way this stat is real.
It's true.
There's no way.
Yeah. No, Chip and Mark said it. Chip and Mark said it on the broadcast. They said it in the 8th inning. They said, hey, if the Cardinals don't score, the first time in 200. I think that's low, actually. I thought it was like 221 or 223, something
I see
like
it
that.
On Twitter. So, people have it on Twitter as well. A few different sources have posted that this is a 220 game streak. It was the longest such streak without a shutout in MLB history. I'm looking at their baseball reference page, which says the times that they have been shut out by an opponent this year is 9. The times they have shut out an opposing team is 0 before today. So certainly hasn't happened this year. And, that's just me vetting the stat, but it seems like it's a real thing. This Cardinals team earns that distinction, allowing the Rockies to snap that streak.
And I mean, you know what? It shouldn't shock you at all that a team was shut out by hold on a second. Tanner Gordon.
They're making these guys up. They're not.
Gordon.
This is create a player stuff. First, you're telling me there's a Bradley Blaylock. That was yesterday. Now you're telling me that Tanner Gordon is a real guy. At least his ERA is decent. Oh,
Tyler Kinley. I've been playing a lot of NCAA 26, and these are the names of guys that I recruit. Yeah, they're just those thrown together names that
create a player.
That get. Yeah,
we don't have the licensing agreement. We don't have the rights to the name, image, and likeness.
Bill Belichick wouldn't let his name be used, so UNC is coached by Tanner Gordon.
Yep. Pretty much right.
The day started off with a glimmer of hope for Cardinal fans. Around 11:30 this morning, we get the news that Eric Fetty was designated for assignment, and Andre Granillo was called up. So a reason I don't want to say celebrate, because I mean it's a man's career that's probably over for the most part in Eric Fetty. But when you go into the game today and you see how they lost, and you see another starting pitcher, and they talked about this, and it's true that you look at everything that has happened with the starting pitching outside of McGreevy, and since they have come back for the All-Star break, it is just one after another. The starting pitchers are putting the team in such a hole that it's making it damn near impossible to come back from.
Yeah, it's starting pitching. Starting pitching, right? I mean,
right.
There's a reason they mentioned it on the TV broadcast. There's a reason that managers talk about it so much, because without it, you don't have a prayer. Like, you don't have the basis to begin thinking about winning a baseball game when the starting pitching looks like it has looked for the most of the recent stretch, outside of your guy, Michael McGreevy, finally getting an opportunity in this series. He's the only reason the Cardinals don't get swept at Coors Field. So they lose the series to the Rockies, incomprehensible. But man, it's starting pitching. And they make the Fetty decision however many weeks too late, but it's done now.
What upsets me what upsets me the most about the McGreevy situation with this, and say what you will about Fetty. I know you were tweeting about it during the game, just over and over. They made the decision too late. They continued to allow him the opportunity to right himself, and he didn't do it. That could have been done with Michael McGreevy still in your rotation. that could have been done with a 6-man rotation, because now here we sit, second half of the season. We're 6 games into the second half of the season. We haven't seen Matthew Liberatore yet. We're not going to see Matthew Liberatore until Friday, Saturday, whenever it is set up for him to pitch next. So you obviously saw the need to give Matthew Liberatore a little extended rest. You could have gone with a 6-man rotation and flat out said, hey, listen, Michaelis and Fedde are struggling. We're trying to get them right. Matthew Liberatore's already reached the most innings he's ever pitched. Hey, we're going to go 6-man right now. We think we have the arms to kind of rotate in and out in the bullpen. We're going to go with a 6-man rotation and see how far that gets us.
Yeah, I mean, you could go that way. I don't agree with it. I think it's pitiful that they continued to trot Erick Fedde out there. Like, not even Erick Fedde deserved that. He's not in a spot right now where he can compete. And they did it under the guise of maybe we can rebuild his trade value. Like, they knew he wasn't on the team after the 31st, but they were hoping, could we get a prospect for him? But more realistically, and maybe this still happens, I don't know. If he's claimed on waivers, they get out from under the money. I think that's all they were trying to do the whole time.
The money, I think they owe. I mean, again, I think it's
$2.5 million.
I thought it was less than that.
That's why it's pathetic, Joe.
Right.
That's why it's awful that they let that guy there. They let that kind of hijack the month of July in many ways. Like, it's every 5th day. It's not like Erick Fedde's struggles meant the Cardinals. That alone meant they weren't going to make the playoffs this year. But in the most important month of the season, where you're trying to figure out, are you buyers, are you sellers, where are you in this race, they allowed Fedde to keep taking the ball after it was abundantly clear that it wasn't going to change. Like, it wasn't going to change, Joe. And it's not me hating on Erick Fedde that I'm saying that. It's just they should have known the surrounding circumstances that this was not going to change for Erick Fedde. And so,
yeah. Comments galore coming through over and over and over again that I'm missing it. But this one saying Liberatore also is terrible. Also, what the hell are you talking about?
So he's not terrible, but Joe, he's got a 6 ERA since June 1st, and part of that is the workload. You're getting up there. He's been inconsistent, and wanting to buy some extra rest for him makes sense. It's just here's my thing. June the 25th was the first time that we saw the crack in the facade of Erick Fedde. He had a 3.54 ERA before that. So you got to miss me with this revisionist history that they should have traded him in the offseason. I don't have time today to go into all the reasons that's an interesting conversation, but at the end of the day, probably an unfair criticism. If you would have done that, you wouldn't have been doing it to play the kids. This Cardinals rotation would have ended up underwater if it had just said, Michaelis, you're gone, Fedde, you're gone in February, and let McGreevy, I'm good with McGreevy taking the ball. But if McGreevy and Matz were your 2 starters, they wouldn't have had the 6 times that McGreevy and Matz were the 6th man to buy an extra day for the veterans on the staff. They wouldn't have had any depth had you had one singular starting pitching injury, which they didn't have, but you couldn't have known that in February. So to me, you're missing the mark with that. And some would argue, well, they could have traded Fedde because he had value then, and we knew that the value was going to decrease because he wasn't going to be able to maintain what he was doing in 2024. If that's true, and you on Twitter can figure it out, so can the 29 other teams that are in Major League Baseball. The perception that he had all his value, I think, is errant. But even if he did, you were going to have to go out and replace him with a similar veteran, pay similar money to get that player, because I'm telling you, the young guys were not ready, and you didn't have quite enough of them. And what we found out over the first half of the season is that all of Quinn Matthews, Tink Hence, Cooper Jerpy, Sam Roberts, Tekoa Roby have spent time on the injured list. You didn't have the depth. So John Mozeliak didn't err when it came to not trading Fedde or dumping Michaelis in February like everybody wanted him to. Those guys gave you something of value for the majority of April, May, and the first half of June. The problem was when you get to see Fedde on the 25th of June, give it up to the Cubs, and it's not close and it doesn't look right, and then you run him out there again, and it's the same result. You're like, we do it 3 more times after that, Joe. That's the problem.
Yeah,
and not it's just July, and 2 more times since then. We're going to let the idea that maybe we save a little bit of cash or get a prospect for this guy dominate the idea that just shelve him, take him out of play, DFA him, and then see if somebody wants to pick him up right then and there, and let McGreevy and ideally the others, Like, if the Royals can sign Rich Hill in the middle of the season, John Mozeliak is allowed to go out there and pursue, like they signed Zach Eflin. I'm glad they did that. He hasn't panned out, but they could have been churning through those ideas since really late June, so that when you get to today, it's not like, well, might as well run Fetty out there because we don't have enough. That's what's so frustrating about this.
And
they
that's
had a
what I mean, but still, and to your point with that, you saw the terrible game in Wrigley, and you saw the bad games against the Cubs. You had the opportunity. You had the opportunity before the end of the first half to, say he had a tired arm, find an injury. I mean, because something wasn't right. Obviously, something wasn't right with Eric Fetty. You had the opportunity to miss him with a start at the end of the first half and go with McGreevy in that game again, that Saturday against the Braves, and they chose not to.
That's where it got real bad.
Yeah, and they fed us the excuse of, we're trying to give him a chance to maybe increase his trade value.
It's terrible
for that, which you could have easily, 15 days on the IL, you bring him back, and then you give him a start either against this Rockies or Padres, however it would have panned out after the 15 days. You could have given him that. And then if it doesn't go, at least you were giving him that opportunity to rest up and get right longer than just the All-Star break.
Yeah, and look, it may not be that he's injured. I don't know that there's any reason to believe he's got an injury. I think there's other things going on, and it just wasn't going to work out, gang. The Cardinals can know that, though. They can understand what's likely to happen, and rather than cross your fingers and trot him out there 3 more times after you Ollie took him out in the second inning of a game, Joe. That's where your front office has to wake up and go, yeah, the manager sees something. Maybe we should ask him what it is.
He said he made plenty of comments too.
He was not subtle about it, right? No. And this is not, I saw a comment today on Twitter where somebody said, man, there must have really been some confrontation behind the scenes between Ollie and Eric Fetty. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. He was just watching him pitch every 5th day. And that's all it took. It's a performance business. Eric Fetty is a super nice, agreeable guy. And I feel bad that he's the butt of the joke of all of this. He shouldn't be. It's the front office that bungled this. But it's not that there was some sort of deep state conspiracy theory. He was pitching poorly, and it didn't project that it was going to change. Before the middle of June, he was pitching decently. He was giving the Cardinals the value that you could have hoped for, but they were slow to react, as has often been a criticism of John Mozeliak's front office in recent years. It's unfortunate because what's happened is now you have to sell. You have to trade Helsley and Maton for whatever you can get, because they have taken, I wouldn't say it's a handful of games because Fetty's only pitched 3 times, but those games and the idea that has been clearly pervasive of oh man, we're running Fetty out there again. That clubhouse has tanked. It feels like this Rockies series was, you named the pitchers that they were not able to score runs against over the last couple of days. I'm not blaming the players, but it feels like a mail it in couple of days because their souls were snatched out of their bodies watching the way that this front office handled the rotation over the past few weeks.
Are you going tomorrow down to Busch?
There's a chance that I'll be there. Maybe I don't have the stomach for it, but we'll see.
I'm wondering what the feeling is down there right now. Because you mentioned it. You mentioned it. Helsley, Maton. Right now, you will get back. Somebody in here said restock the farm. With that, you're not restocking you're not getting a haul of. You're not getting a Juan Soto type haul when you trade away Phil Maton and Ryan Helsley.
No, but
you're going to get some good pieces that you're hoping. I know. I think it was Ryan Fagan's brought up a few times. What the Royals traded and got Cole Reagans back when they traded with
Chapman.
Yeah,
beautiful from start to finish.
And Cole Reagans was by no means a top 5 prospect in all of baseball when they made that move.
He was a guy with good stuff that they hadn't figured out where he was.
Exactly.
And then they got smart pitching people in the building there in Kansas City to turn him into something more.
That's what you're hoping for. That is exactly what you're hoping for.
100%.
If you trade Ryan Helsley or Phil Maton, you're getting a guy that you just that hopefully it's Chaim Bloom and his guys that are watching this and saying, hey, those are the guys that I want.
It doesn't sound like it is. I mean, if you're reading the reports that are coming out from the beat writers that cover the team more closely than you or I do, And it sounds like John Mozeliak is at the helm. Katie Woo's reporting has been really clear about that. So I think that's just a colossal mistake if they're not using
I've never
Chaim
seen
Bloom.
anything like it. I can't recall anything like it where it's not so much, again, there's been times where it's like, yeah, you know what, this is probably his last year. He's going to retire after this year. I can never recall a time where you bring somebody from outside of the organization in and say, this guy's going to take over, but we're going to give this guy one last hurrah before we hand things over to somebody who comes from a completely different background from him. If this was Mo and Gersh that they were doing it for, that I could see. Then it's like, okay, yeah, I understand that.
Right.
But the way that this is going is befuddling.
It is. And here's my thing. I was for it. I bought it. I told everybody after that press conference at the end of the 2024 season, I'm like, guys, I get it that you're not getting the head on a stake that you wanted when it came to Mo asked y'all to be patient for multiple years, and your patience was not rewarded with anything. And then they're going to tell you he's going to be in charge again for next year, but he's leaving after that. I was like, I get it, actually, because when you think about the way that Chaim Bloom's tenure in Boston went, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world if this is going to be a step back type of year to not allow for Chaim's kind of fingerprints or almost his resume to be tainted by a year in which they're not really putting their best foot forward, and they're telling you from the beginning that it's going to be that way. I was cool with Mo getting to look. Mo's done a lot of really good things for this organization. I know his recent tenure has not been as glowing, but he's been a part of some really good things in a long run in St. Louis. So I have respect for that, and I believe that it's cool to have him finish this out. But if you're really behind the scenes, like whatever optically you want to make it look like publicly, make it look like it's all Mo, and that's fine to save face, whatever you got to do. The idea that Chaim Bloom is not integral behind the scenes in everything that happens over the next 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever it is now, is patently absurd. I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense. I am holding out. I will suspend my disbelief. Understand that all they're doing is when that's reported, they're saying it's Mo. But really behind the scenes, Chaim is going to have a major influence over any decision that they make, because that's what makes sense. Because they're talking like, yeah, sometime in mid-August, maybe Mo's going to step aside and let Chaim really, get a running head start on the offseason. What? I mean, he's got to have a role in the trade deadline.
The running head start would be today.
It would be before the decisions are made that would dictate the future, especially, Joe, now that the decisions revolving around Eric Fedde in this rotation have led to the Cardinals falling out of the race. They're not right there on the cusp of a wild card. If they sweep the Padres, it gets really interesting because the Padres are the team they're chasing. But they just lost a series to the Rockies. The ifs and buts, candy and nuts. It just doesn't seem like they're about to sweep the Padres this weekend. But if they did, maybe it gets more interesting. As it stands, though, they have sat on their hands in the month of July when it came to the minor decisions that could have made them a game or two better in the standings, and they have played themselves into, by their own decision-making, a seller at the deadline. So if you're a seller, you let the guy who's taking over have a major influence over that process. I'll just assume that that's what's going to happen, and it's just being reported that it's Mo because that's the way that the organization believes it's best to maintain cohesion. But in reality, Chaim, of course, is going to be more than consulted on every single topic that could happen before the 31st of July. That's what I'm going to choose to believe, because anything else, it just doesn't make sense.
I'm putting a poll up on the YouTube chat right now because you brought it up, so you put it out there into the universe. So I just wonder, if the Cardinals sweep the Padres, will you be sucked back in?
What would the standings be if that happens? I'm going to look this up.
So I just threw that up there. So if you're in the YouTube chat, it's yes or no. Click one or the other. I'd like to see the results there that I would imagine are going to be about 89% no.
The Cardinals and Padres, the Padres lost again to the Marlins today, which the Cardinals play the Marlins as their other opponent before the trade deadline. The Marlins are almost to 500 now. It's amazing, the run that they've been on. But the Cardinals would have a half-game lead on the Padres if they sweep it in 4 this weekend. And of course, the Giants would probably pick up a couple of wins, and so they would be the new third wild card. But that would be the circumstance, is that the Cardinals would be ahead of the Padres if they sweep them, even after losing to the Rockies. I needed to see them handle the Rockies just like everybody else in baseball has done this year, and then come into Busch this weekend with a little bit of fire, with the knowledge that Eric Fetty in that experiment is in the past, and there's a chance to do something here. I just don't know where that comes from. Momentum is as good as your next day's starter, Joe. That's what they say in baseball. I mean, maybe it'll be true and Sonny can give him a good one tomorrow, because that is the only way this can flip. He throws a gem and somehow they find it against the Padres. I know people are tired of me talking about the playoffs, but we've been talking about it all year because they exceeded expectations. They put themselves in that position. And then over the course of about 3 weeks, they have tanked it with a lot of help from upstairs, in my opinion.
By the way, so right now 91% no at the moment, 92%.
And I don't blame you. Yeah. I would be intrigued because I'd be like, damn, you're like on a wild card spot potentially at the end of that. But what y'all just had to see over the last couple days is not. No baseball fan should have to witness that in 2025. I
think what Jeremy Hodge is asking here is, what do we see as the win total right now? I think that's what he's trying to ask.
Where would you set the over-under?
I'll tell you what it's not.
On the run.
And that's, right now, I mean, they're one game above 500, so.
They're one game above. My God, they are. They're one game above at this point. They were 9 above. You snap your fingers and it's gone. Oh, boy.
Yeah. So
where would you set that number right now, knowing that probably they're going to sell? Although Randy Carricker show on Tuesday, he mentioned that, well, you know, there are reports, I believe he talked with Katie on his Matrix show, where they said, yeah, ownership not totally down with the idea of trading Helsley and Maton because they want to make sure they get fans in the building down the stretch, which I don't know. I didn't see that quote, but Randy was kind of talking about it. They have to sell those guys because they're not going anywhere at this point. But knowing that there's a lot of permutations that could happen this week, where's that number? Is it simply 80.5? Are they a winning team, or would you go higher or lower than that if you're trying to set the odds here?
So what are they right now? Right now they are 52 and 51.
Which, by the way, somebody said this is a 100-loss team in the comments. No, it's not. Like, they're going to win 12 more. They're going to win 12 more games, guys, or 11 more games. But no, it could go downhill.
If they are a 100-loss team, I didn't see the comment roll through.
They would be the Rockies the rest of the way. That's what that would mean.
They would win their record for the remaining games would be 10-49.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You know what? As head of content here at STL Sports Central, I would love to know what those numbers on some of the viewership numbers on some of these shows would be if the Cardinals went on a 10-49 run.
It would be 0. People would stop caring in September.
People would get mad. People would get so mad.
They'll be mad in August, and then September. I'm telling you, 2023, people did not care by the end. They were like, okay, it's almost the offseason. I mean, you have memory hold September 2023 because it was a bleak time. You had Jacob Barnes and Andrew Suarez and Casey Lawrence, and you just had these guys off the street that they signed to pitch innings because you had to, which is kind of what people are advocating for, I guess, when they wanted Fetty and Michaelis gone. But that's another matter.
Rammer and I were doing daily shows back then, and I can't remember what
you memory hold it
were like. Yeah. I could tell you what, though, I'm not confident with the 87 or more wins that I had the Cardinals at. I got that for plus 370 on DraftKings back before the season started. And if you're interested in jumping on board with DraftKings, you can get on now and play get on the Pick 6 app, especially if you're over there in Missouri. Get on the DraftKings Pick 6 app. It's real easy. You pick more or less on stats for 2 or more of your favorite players. So on the Pick 6 app, you can't do the teams like I did over on the DraftKings app over here in Illinois, but Pick 6 is available for you right here in Missouri. And if you get on the Pick 6 app right now and use code STL Sports, that's code STL Sports for new customers, you get a $25 in bonus picks with the first deposit of $5. So use code STL Sports, $25 in bonus picks with the first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So we're going through here, and they're asking about trades for you.
I think that's funnier than asking about the win total for the Cardinals.
I'm not sure how those conversations would even begin.
I don't think I don't have a no trade clause. I never thought to put it in because nobody was really inquiring. So it's just one of those things where they were going to give me a few more shows, a few more chances to maybe demonstrate some trade value before I'm a DFA casualty at the end of the month. That's the way that's the way it might be trending, Kyle. So we'll see what the result of that ends up being.
So there, and I saw you replied to a comment in the in the YouTube chat, and I want to get to this. And we kind of touched on it a little earlier as far as Ollie goes. There is nothing going currently right now about Ollie Marmol as a manager of the Cardinals that I would change at this moment. He is right now running out the what?
I said I like hearing you say that. Continue.
Yeah, there is nothing about the way that he is managing that is fireable, that needs changed. No, not at all, because he is playing the guys that he is being handed at the moment. There was a comment earlier about, you're pointing out that somebody pointing out the fact that Mo in the offseason only signed Phil Maton for $2 million and did nothing to improve the offense. Go back to February and tell me what free agent was out there that you would have gone out and signed, realistically gone out and signed to improve any single person on the Cardinals offensive side of the ball right now. There's nobody. Outside, you couldn't have foreseen that Ivan Herrera was going to not work out as a catcher and be purely a DH.
I probably could have told you that, but that's okay.
But you knew that you couldn't have foreseen the leg injuries that were going to prevent him from being a catcher the whole season. I think if you could have seen that, maybe you would have said, okay, maybe we upgrade the catching position. Outside of that, there was nothing out there that needed to be upgraded.
Yeah, you're going to run Victor Scott out there in center. Mason's your shortstop. You had a plan with Contreras at first, and he's been fine. Donovan's an all-star, generally your second baseman. They tried to trade Arenado, couldn't do it. And so you end up with, Gorman getting less playing time, but he's hurt right now. Look, I get nobody loves the season Nootbaar's had, but he's been average, and he's also injured. So this was kind of that runway too, Joe, for guys of what's the durability of some of these guys? What have we learned? We've learned that Nootbaar's not an extension candidate because he can't stay healthy. There are things being gleaned from this season. Okay, what have we learned when it comes to Jordan Walker? Yeah, we're not sure. We're not sure that he's going to be the answer. And so you might have to think about, I'm not giving up on him yet, but you might have to think about what that looks like in right field. So you're right. If you look at the lineup 1 through 9, offensively, there wasn't a lot. It's just they didn't have depth behind their starters, and they're starting to see the injuries really mount. And even the guys that are not on the IL are banged up. Mason talking about dealing with a knee within the last couple of days. We know that Arenado has been banged up.
JJ Weatherholt, come on down.
Well, and I actually am getting to the point where as long as he continues to look the part for another 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, you get to that date of essentially service time manipulation, and you say, mid-August, are we 45 days to the end of the season or less? Yes, he comes up and he plays. He probably bats in the lower half of the order because 130 at bats, you can't reach that or you lose your rookie eligibility. 45 days, you can't hit that on the major league roster or you lose your rookie eligibility. I say service time. Really, it's the opposite of that, because if not for that new rule, there wouldn't even be a conversation about JJ coming up this year. It would just be, next year after April 21st or whatever. That was the way that it used to be. Now you're almost incentivized to consider, as long as a guy keeps his rookie eligibility, he can have a September call-up, and it doesn't hinder us in any way. And in fact, it gives him a little bit of a runway to know what the big leagues are all about for next year. If he keeps mashing to a 1,200 OPS, yeah, I'll be beating the drum for a Cardinals team in mid-August. It's in the race, out of the race, whatever. If he looks the part for another month or so, I'll be talking about that too, but you can't
And
give that up.
This comment up here by Trey, Ollie doing the best he can without a playoff berth, I doubt he stays. That would be incredibly unfair to Ollie, because at no point did the front office, did ownership I have any kind of vision of playoff scenarios in their heads going into the season. The locker room, I'm sure Ollie did. I'm sure the guys in the locker room did, but we were talked into it. I mean, they tried their best to talk us into it and let us know, hey, probably isn't a playoff team. And then you went into the locker room and you're like, hey, front office doesn't think you're a playoff.
We're going to show people is what they told us. And you know what? They did. The manager, the coaching staff, and the players showed people until whatever, mid-June, whenever that was, that they were 9 games above 500. What's up, Cam? And then what happened? They started to falter in the areas that were outperforming. You were seeing Fetty and Michaelis with good, solid, sturdy, middle-of-the-rotation numbers, and then that started to decline, and in Fetty's case, did so rapidly. And they stood by, and they allowed those preseason notions of this isn't probably a contender, we're going to chill on it. They allowed that to remain in place instead of go, you know what, we should adapt. We're better than people thought we were going to be. We're better than we thought we were going to be upstairs. And we should probably be exploring just exhausting all the possibilities. In every nook and cranny, can we find some pitching for when, not if, but probably when this Fetty thing becomes untenable. And when we could maybe find a way to upgrade from Miles Michaelis. And you know what? It might cost us some dead money in August and September. But our fans deserve us to not give a shit about that. Our fans deserve us to not have that be what guides our decision-making. Whether we can save $2.5 million on Fetty, whether we can get a prospect for Fetty to save face for an Edman trade that actually wasn't that bad. Tommy Edman's OPSing 670 right now. He's a fine player, and I really like him, but shut up about the Edman trade. That wasn't the problem. The problem has been when this team showed you that they're better than you thought they were going to be upstairs, and that ownership gave them really a chance to be. They didn't adapt and say, all right, let's do something about it. Mozeliak had quotes that said ownership is willing to, we can spend a little money at this deadline if we need to, but they're too late. They should have been looking to do that a little bit sooner. And I'm not talking about trading top prospects, but there are deals that happen every summer that we look back and go, oh man, the guy they gave up, they weren't going to use him anyway. And they really got something that helped out. It filled a need. It was proactive in the way that it aided the team. This front office was the opposite of that over the past month. They didn't do it, man. And that's a shame because the players deserved it. The coaching staff deserved it. The fans deserved it. But Ollie Marmol also deserved it because to the point of that comment, man, it would be a real bummer if we saw things like I'm telling you, a month ago at this time, people were talking about Ollie Marmol going, dude, he has turned water into wine. Like he has really done some good things with this roster this year that we didn't see coming. The roster fits a little better, and man, he's really making it work. And now that the starting pitching is cratered, suddenly all that other stuff doesn't matter anymore. You're right. It's not a reflection of his managing, but the next guy that comes in, is he going to be a little bit more inclined to clean slate because he goes, I don't really have a huge pre-existing relationship with this staff, and maybe I do things on my own. I'm going to give Chaim more credit than that. I think he can see through some of the reasons that this has fallen off, but it's a little eerie to think that could actually have an impact, that the previous regime, which was allowed to continue because ownership said, what's the harm? Let Mo do it this year, that those decisions and their hesitance to really make any moves over the past month could contribute to this notion that, well, Ollie may not be the manager. I think that would be silly. I've seen enough to know they've got the right guy, but I can't guarantee you that the next guy is going to feel the same because, frankly, we haven't heard from Chaim Bloom, and it was designed to be that way. So it's very precarious, a lot of what's going on with the Cardinals right now and the way that the next 3 to 6 months will look. I couldn't tell you.
And not only that, too, there is nothing from, Chaim Bloom went from the Rays to the Red Sox. And when you talk about, money, when you talk about teams willing to spend, those are two very different teams and two very different mindsets as far as how those teams operate. And when you look at the coaches that were there during the time too, like there's nothing that jumps out at me to where I could sit here and I could say this manager, this guy is a Chaim Bloom type of guy. Like there's nothing about Ollie that I say, hey, that's a Chaim Bloom guy. Or there's I saw people in the chat saying they want Skip Schumacher. Hey, that's a Chaim Bloom guy. Like there's nobody out there
they have no
that
idea.
I could pinpoint and say that. And That's something we don't know yet. Maybe Chaim Bloom wants Ollie to be the first Chaim Bloom guy, and they're going to work together and figure it out.
I would think they would get along pretty well with the way that Ollie views the game, but I have no way to know that because we haven't heard from the guy, and it's just going to be, we're gonna wait and see kind of what he's about. We'll find out as time goes along. We'll find out together, but yeah, I don't know. That's going to be an interesting conversation. I don't like that it's going to be a conversation, but when the record kind of tails off, very simplistically, we'll go, well, what's that manager doing? Yeah. I just
and
don't
you also,
think
you have an assistant GM. You have another guy in Rob Cerfolio too. That's, also going to be running things. And that's another guy. He's coming from the Cleveland organization. I mean, the Cardinals have actually gone outside of the organization here the last few years for the first time. And Brenden, I think you and my lifetime of covering this team, and have brought different voices in.
Yeah.
To where next year, when you look at all of the new people that will be in charge, even us, even you and I, even people like a Katie Wu or Derek Gould, who are with the team every single day, have no idea what it's going to be like. You talk to people that are at Busch Stadium 200 days a year, and they don't know what that answer is yet. And it might be a little scary, but maybe it's a little refreshing after the last few years too.
No, and I think that part's true. And honestly, ownership, was it delayed? Should it have probably been integrated sooner? Yes. But ownership and Mo as well, I think, can deserve a little bit of credit for, from what I understand, Mo kind of pushed for, like, here's a guy that, like, Chaim Bloom fired by the Red Sox. He's like, look, Bill, I'm not going to be doing this forever. You need to bring this guy in. Like, I think there was a little bit of that going on. And then Cerfolio, I think that comes from Chaim understanding, kind of the direction of the game. And I think Cerfolio was a fantastic hire, and I think we're going to continue to see that over the course of the years to come. But you're right, like it's the unknown. But for Cardinals fans who are kind of fed up with the way things have gone in recent years, they shouldn't fear the unknown. They should be like, all right, we're going to embrace something new, and that it kind of gets you back to what people thought that early Mozeliak era was like, where people love to worship at the feet of Lunau and say, like, there were a lot of great things in player development happening at that time, which there were. But, like, who exactly deserves all the credit and how you divvy that up is a debate that people have. But I think that's kind of what they're aiming to do, is, like, those guys in that front office for St. Louis, they were at the forefront of it however many years ago, whether it was, 15 to 17 years ago, whatever the timeline was. We're seeing that they've fallen behind. They're bringing in the guys that should be at the forefront of the next wave. That's the idea behind it, and hopefully it works out. But as we're finding out, the progress is not always linear. We thought, wow, they're ahead of schedule. Look at the way things are going. Well, there's still a lot that they clung to from kind of a disjointed plan coming into the year. And damn, they almost got away with it. For a while, this team, they're not a bad team. They're above 500 still, even with all of the warts that we've seen. But at the end of it all, there was an opportunity, I believe, to adjust course midstream as the front office. And they just didn't react in that way to try and turn this into like a surprise winning season. It could have been that, and now it feels like it can't be, which is not over, but it feels like it can't be. I feel like the chat probably can identify with what I'm sharing there.
Before we get into some of the final thoughts here, just want to remind everybody that Cards Central Instant Reaction, we will be going live whenever the Cardinals make any kind of move, with the trade deadline 1 week away. When that happens, we will be going live as soon as possible with all the latest news and all of your reactions as well. Want to just let you know that to keep those, make sure you like and subscribe to STL Sports Central. So when something happens and we go live with whoever it is, with our huge cast of baseball pundits, we will get you all of the latest news the second it comes out. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as you are watching here today.
And I mentioned progress is not always linear. Aaron says, I need quicker progress. Aaron is hoping like hell that I am not on that panel when the Cardinals make a trade, because he is going to want to watch anybody else. I know that is true, but I just had to throw that in there. Sometimes you want quicker progress because we're conflating it with, like, hey, they said be patient, and then it never arrived. So I want this next version of the Cardinals to get here quickly. I don't think it's going to be like a 3 to 5 year rebuild, but it's going to require some really specific targeted moves this winter to turn this thing around quickly. Maybe Chaim Bloom and his staff can bring those moves, but we don't know yet because we haven't seen them.
This from LBD Titan. Herrera was rushed back from the injury, does not look right at the plate. I don't think so. I think calling him back up on that Sunday of the Braves game, I will agree that was maybe a little bit rushed, and I think that had to do probably with the Lars Nootbaar injury as well. But the plan was always for him to be ready to go by the second half of the season. The second he had that injury, he was coming back for that Diamondback series. So,
well, I don't know about that, but that's what he wanted. That's what he targeted, right?
So, but yeah, I would also agree. But the thing is, I mean, the entire team just got shut out by the Rockies at Coors Field. So there's more than just Ivan Herrera that doesn't look right at the plate, and that average has dropped over 20 points since he's returned. So it's concerning. Or, is it just kind of a return to the means? And maybe the league has figured out Ivan Herrera, and he wasn't going to be a 320 hitter in 2025
with 1,000 OPS. I mean, there was always going to be some regression back to the mean. But I mean, by the way, he was 1 for 2 today with a couple of walks. He's still taking his walks. He took a walk yesterday. It's just a little bit of regression back to the mean. Like, he's going to be an 800 OPS guy, 800. He's going to be like Wilson Contreras at the plate. That's what I see for Ivan Herrera. And it's okay that he's not going to be, 1,000 OPS because like 3 players in baseball generally are that. So I don't know. I'm not that worried about Ivan Herrera, and I don't really think they rushed him back. I think he was only ever going to bat. He wasn't going to play the field coming back, and they knew that. And so when he took a few hacks in the minors, they said, all right, might as well bring it back, especially because Nootbaar's down and we could use another bat. I was cool with it. I think he's going to be okay. That's just my take.
You threw this comment up on the screen.
This one here?
Yeah, I didn't know if that was for a reason or not.
It made me laugh. Hamburger helper. First of all, it's a sentient hamburger helper glove, which is funny. And then he said, am I still going to be alive when the rebuild is finished? I'm getting a little long in the tooth. I don't think it's going to be. And look, by the way, let's look back at what this has been. Some franchises do lose 100 games. This one hasn't. They lost 91 in 2023. And last year they had a winning season. It didn't feel good, but they did have a winning season. This year, they're currently having, you're right, a winning season. So if that's the baseline, the foundation is like, we're kind of mid, I think they could come out of that a little bit more quickly than the teams that have to go from losing 100 games to trying to find a way to find their core. Cardinals have their core. They just have to prune it a little bit. They gotta trade away some pieces so the other pieces fit more neatly into the puzzle. And then maybe the stuff they get back via those trades can help push them forward along with good, smart development people behind the scenes. I think that can happen rather quickly. The question is going to be, with all of the looming potential work stoppage at the end of 2026, are they going to go this offseason and spend any money to try to propel things forward? Or is 2026 going to be another year of, we'll make a couple trades, but it's kind of going to be what we got in-house? And if that's the case, they're not going to probably project to take a big step forward next year.
I haven't even looked at who the potential free agents are at the end of this year.
Don't bother, because if they get one, it's not going to be a name that's at the top of that list.
Right.
They're going to spend big. Can they spend $20 to $30 to $50 million over the course of a handful of players to get like targeted guys in that bargain bin? They didn't even do that this year, Joe. They signed Maton. They could have signed, 4 Maton equivalents, whether it's to the bullpen or whether one of them's a starting pitcher or whether, they could have been more creative. But largely, I agree with what you said about the offense. They weren't necessarily going to replace anybody from that offense with a free agent in the winter. But you could have maybe signed a bench bat. Maybe that's what they do. They've used this year, and they're like, we know which ones are bench bats and which ones aren't. We're going to trade away enough guys that we're signing like a 33-year-old right-handed slugger that's going to fit perfect for the role we have for him. He happens to play, I don't know, the positions that we need him to play, and he's going to be a perfect fit off of our bench because they've kind of struggled to find what that. I mean, Garrett Hampson's kicking around. They've gone through the Valades. They've gone through the Barreros. They got to find a bench. Maybe that's like a minor upgrade, but maybe minor upgrades take this team from, they're kind of a 500 club to win in 88 games, and that can happen within an off season. But we
Bill Downtown just chiming in here saying 26 and 27 will be a waste. Buddy, there might not be a 27. So
that's good news. That's the good news, gang. They're not even going to play that year. So don't fret.
This one saying, do you think they regret not signing Lance Lynn? I mean, Lance Lynn retired.
Hey, but here's the thing.
30 teams had a chance to sign Lance Lynn, and
They
none
did.
of them did.
They had
So,
a
no,
chance.
I don't think the St. Louis Cardinals are sitting there going, man, really wish we would have re-signed that guy that nobody else wanted, and now he's doing a podcast with the Cat that you can watch each and every week on the Cat's YouTube
that wasn't
channel
very nice.
produced by STL Sports Central. No,
Here,
it was a long way of plugging that his podcast is now part of us. Yes.
Well, here's what I was going to say is that I actually think you could make a case that their pursuit of him, if there was any, didn't, they were maybe regret the way that it went, because when he announced his retirement on his wife's podcast, and look, the Cat would know more about this than me. I don't talk to Lance Lynn like the Cat does. My interpretation of listening to how he described that was like, there were a couple teams that were interested. The money didn't work out. And so for him, it was probably, hey, I'm at this point in my career. I could pitch another year. I want to be on a team. I don't want to wait and do a showcase in June. Some guys do that. He said, I don't want to do that. If he was going to come back and pitch, he wanted to be a part of spring training and integrate with that clubhouse wherever it might have been. I think he got some offers. I think the money wasn't what he felt, was going to be worth his time. I absolutely think Lance Lynn could have rolled out here and had a better season than Eric Fetty, had a better season than Miles Michaelis, and probably had a better season than a lot of guys that ended up signed around baseball. The Cardinals had to make the decision of like, are we going to invest monetarily what it would take to bring Lance Lynn off the couch to do what Eric Fetty cannot do? That was maybe the decision point, and they decided, no, we're not spending the money. And so like, that's the way that plays out. Yeah, you could make a case that they regret it, but I don't think they do, because they knew they weren't going to spend this offseason, and they didn't. And they're getting the result of that. But if you're not going to spend, couldn't they have signed a couple of guys for a couple million? Like a guy like a Lorenzen. Michael Lorenzen's on the Royals, but those types of guys who, they've pitched in relief, they've been starters, but they're going to give us some innings, kind of in that Steven Matz category too, where like we might need another guy like that just to get through, because we won't be so scared to pull the parachute on Eric Fetty if we have another guy waiting in the wings that can maybe do the job a little bit better when he begins to falter. Quintana would have been loads better, but I just don't know that was going to. There's a lot that goes into that. Did Quintana want to come back here? Did John Mozeliak have the ability to, did he have his phone number? That's hard sometimes to find a guy's phone number. So it can be tough, Joe.
And who knows what kind of hard feelings there might have been when they didn't re-sign him the first time, when he came out here and started for you in a playoff game.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say the hard feelings of being taken out after 5 innings in a playoff game, and I was going to yell at you, but you didn't say that. It would have been a funny joke, though. I kind of wish you had said that. I've made my feelings on that very clear. But anyway.
So yeah, as we wrap up this venting session, it's long story short, it's you wrote an article on Monday, or was it Sunday? You probably wrote it. You wrote an article about how it would be an embarrassment if the Cardinals did not sweep the Rockies.
If they don't sweep them, it's done. You trade everybody, and well, here we are.
They went the opposite direction, and they lost 2 out of 3 games. So
you can't have it. Ryan Helsley can't be on this roster August 1st. Phil Maton cannot be on this roster August 1st. You bring up relievers in their place. You get a top 100 prospect for one of them, or you don't. You get whatever prospect you can get. Use your best negotiation skills, Johnny Moe, and do what you can. But they can't be on the team because you have played yourselves out because of the front office decisions, in part, of contention. And so now you have to do what's responsible.
And to sit there and say, tear it down, whatever, I don't know what that means.
That's not it.
You have so many young guys on this team, and you have you have your Contreras, your Gray, that are not going anywhere. The one fascinating one is going to be the Nolan Arenado decision, because if he sticks around for all this year, then he's here next year. I truly believe. I don't think
that way.
I think if he sat through trade offers this offseason, if he's going to make it through this trade deadline, he's here with you for the full revamp of whatever this is.
Okay. I don't agree, but Randy Carricker has said the same thing. And I've been like, I don't know, Randy. We don't know what we don't know. Chaim Bloom's going to talk with him, and that's going to be different than John Mozeliak talking with him, So we'll see, man. The problem is he's not an attractive trade candidate now. Like, the Cardinals are going to have to eat a lot more of the remaining money. There's less of it, of course. But I don't think with his numbers and productivity, he's as attractive of a piece as he was last winter when only one team on his list wanted him. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't know for sure that that's the way I would characterize it. We'll see.
Okay. And I would spin it this way, that if the St. Louis Cardinals were in need of a third baseman, and in an alternate universe, Nolan Arenado of the Baltimore Orioles was available, putting up the same numbers with the same, credentials that he has over his career, and the Cardinals were to go trade for this version of Nolan Arenado, I think the fan base would be head over heels, like they have been many times throughout the history of the Cardinals when it comes to getting a veteran like that at the trade deadline.
Yeah, because probably what would happen is, how much money does he have remaining? It's like 25 million and then 15 or something.
Yeah.
If it's like 40 million bucks, probably what happens is the imaginary Baltimore Orioles are eating like 30 million of that 40, and the Cardinals didn't give up a very good prospect to get him. And they're like, oh my gosh, we just had a gaping hole at third, and we've at least got a guy now that can pick it over there. So yeah, I think there's a realm in which, but also that guy having a no trade clause, there's only so many teams that he's going to want to go to. And it's like, is he of the position to be able to be picky if he doesn't want to be here? Maybe he's happy to be here. I don't think Arenado is costing the Cardinals. He's just, it's unfortunate because he was billed in the payroll as a guy that's going to be a centerpiece. And now he's more of an ancillary because his defense is still great, but he can't be relied upon to bat third or fourth or fifth or probably sixth in a contending lineup.
Yeah,
and so that's
okay. Yeah, I mean, if the Phillies get him and he ends up batting seventh for the Phillies, playing third base, and they're getting, a future Hall of Fame third baseman for a stretch run,
it works for
who
those
knows
teams.
what? Maybe he gets revitalized and he starts hitting the heck out of the ball again.
He will, because you almost feel it on this roster that you've got to be the best one, and you're kind of not the best one the way that it's currently structured. And so like that wears on a guy. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Real Muto, Brandon Marsh. Yeah, he slots in seventh ahead of like a Max Kepler, where some guy named Otto Kemp was playing third base today. And, it's a completely different dynamic that he would experience on the Phillies. I think that would be a perfect type of example of what could conceivably happen. But I don't know.
We need somebody on the roster, on the STL Sports Central roster, to write up what a potential trade of Arenado and Helsley to the Phillies would look like. What kind of return that would bring.
And we didn't get anywhere. Like that's what I thought was going to happen 6 months ago. And they never traded for him.
Now it seems more realistic. And I kind of want to know what that return would be. Dive into the Phillies farm system.
If that trade happens, I will take a lot of joy in watching the Phillies win the World Series this year. I mean, it feels like something the Phillies should be interested in, because their closer is going to be out for the playoffs because he had an 80-game suspension for PEDs and he can't pitch in the postseason. I still think he's suspended for now, but yeah, stop. Don't give Joe a reason. Don't give Joe a reason. I'm done with this show. We're done.
We really are, though. Oh, all right. Hey, check, keep those, like and subscribe, keep those alerts, notifications on for STL Sports Central. So thank you, Brandon. So, whenever we go live with whatever news might be popping up, I believe you and Stefan back tomorrow for a Card Central 365 before the Cardinals and Padres series. They're back in town, 4-game series against the Padres. Will Mike Schilt put the hammer down into the nails of the coffin of the Cardinals 2025 season this weekend? We will find out. Plus, Flow Rider is going to be here on Friday. So lots to be excited for this weekend of baseball here in St. Louis.
You call me Bren Dead. I'm Bren Dead. I feel dead.
He is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. This is the Card Central Postgame. Thank you so much for being along with us for the last almost hour of venting. We are happy to be your therapy session after Cardinal bad losses like today. All of our content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We'll talk to you next time right here on STL Sports Central.